At this time, we'll call to order the regular city council meeting for September 28th, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
of the United States of America,
and to
and
the
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just got off the phone with our colleague, Councilmember Richards. He is again struggling with getting in on his phone call. So it does not look like he will be able to make the meeting this evening. I encouraged him to continue trying. But at this time, if anyone would like to make a motion excusing Councilmember Richards, I would entertain that. Councilmember Walton. Oh, you're muted, Councilmember Walton, sorry.
I always forget about that. Thank you.
It's okay.
And it seems we all have our technical difficulties. And based on that, I'd like to make the motion to excuse Mr. Richards from tonight's meeting.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all. With that, we'll move on to the approval of city council minutes, September 14th, 2020. Councilmember Kennedy.
I'll move the minutes.
I'll support.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Dill, go ahead.
Just had one tiny correction. On page 4, under council comments, like halfway down, it says something like, there is a lot of angry people. It just should be, there are. That's all.
Councilmember Kennedy.
I'll move the minutes as amended.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. On to the approval of the agenda this evening. Councilmember Kennedy.
I'll move the agenda.
I'll support.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comment. Please take a moment and raise your hand virtually or speak up. Please remember to state your name and address. City Clerk Deaton, do we have anyone waiting for public comment this evening?
We have 3 people as attendees, but nobody's raising their hand currently.
Okay. At this time, we'll close public comment and we'll move on to the discussion of downtown with Nate.
All right, good evening, everyone. So to date, I've been able to distribute all but 2 of the Support Downtown South Line mini grant checks to the businesses. The 2 businesses that have not received their checks, I've contacted them multiple times, gone to their store, and I just haven't been able to catch them on a good day. So I'm hoping to get those last 2 checks out, and we're going to do a little social media post with all the people in a picture, and we'll get that out there. On Wednesday, September 23rd, we received the soil borings report from G2 Consulting Group. The full report was attached in your council packets, but I'll just cover some of the highlights of the report. They indicated the presence of peat, which is a soft soil that contains high amounts of organic materials that are unsuitable for foundation or floor slab support at the depths of 7 and 4 feet at the 2 drilling locations. Additionally, there was groundwater detected at 7 and 7.5 feet in the 2 locations. They indicated that if we were to remove the peat from the site, we'd have to dewater it, which could negatively affect the surrounding roads and buildings and things like that. So their recommendation was to utilize the parcel as public parking. Kind of going off of that, the DDA Economic Vitality Committee met the next day We discussed the results of the report. I presented to them the results. They offered a recommendation to the DDA board, which is to either, utilize the property as some sort of a gateway, public parking or something like that, so that we can have, utilize that property in the downtown. Main Street, Oakland County has opened their Flag Star placemaking and facade grants to affiliate and associate level communities. We're an affiliate level community, so the grants are a $1,000 match. And I intend to at least apply for funding for at least one mural to be placed on the side of Grand Trunk. I'm still in the process of filling that grant out, and the application deadline for that is Friday, October 23rd. We're going to be putting the corn stalks and hay bales out hopefully tomorrow. We've got the order placed with Donahue Farms to get that picked up, so we'll be getting those out in downtown soon. I should also note that Susan Stowe of Grand Trunk Home is interested in pursuing a historic designation for her building. I met with her last week to go over that, and we've begun the process for that as well. And then finally, Cancun Mexican Grill opened on Monday, September 21st. I stopped out there on Tuesday and said hi, and to welcome them and drop off my business card. And then Lefty's Cheesesteaks, they're still a few weeks out from opening. They're still getting some of their signage in place and still doing some work on the inside. And that's all I have for you tonight.
All right. Does anyone have anything for Nate tonight? Councilmember Dill, go ahead.
Hi, I have just a couple things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first thing is, if we can't build on that parcel, didn't somebody ask to purchase it? And is that something we would entertain, or do you think that the findings wouldn't make that very viable for them either?
Well, it depends on, we did have somebody submit a purchase offer for that parcel. It kind of depends on what they're going to be building, but we also want to go through, the proper process of, having an RFP, seeing if anybody's interested, and just making sure that we, do everything that we're supposed to do for the property, just to ensure that all the right steps are taken.
Thank you. Also, I was just wondering, do we know what happened with the ice cream shop that was between Third Monk and the bakery? They were going to open before the pandemic hit, and then I heard they were going to keep trying, but it doesn't seem like that ever happened. I just wondered if you had an update.
No, I don't have an update on that. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that.
And the last thing was, you had mentioned a few weeks ago something about a winery or something that people were looking for a place to have that business. I wondered if there was an update on that at all.
I don't have an update on that either. I know they were struggling to get financing for their project. I gave them some resources at the county. I showed them some of the loans that the county has as well, and they indicated to me that they were going to try and apply for those. That's if they're unable to get traditional financing. The county offers that. So that was where we last left off, and I haven't heard from them in a few weeks. So I'll have to reach out to them again and see where things are going.
Thanks, Nate.
Yep.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things, Nate. I'd like to take on to Lisa's one comment regarding the property with the soil bearings on it, is that I think there was a reason, I think a lot of us knew that ground there was peat anyway, and the soil bearings sort of vetted that out. There was a reason why that house that was on there, or that structure was on there, didn't have a basement. Because when they dug many years ago, when that building was built, now torn down, they did run into water. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, what could anybody put on there except for something with a flat surface? Because you can't really dig into the ground. And I think that the benefit to whoever would use it privately is not outweighed by the benefit that we as a community could use that space for, whether it's additional parking for our DDA, whether it's putting up a small little park that could be used for additional seating for when people want to eat outside, like across the street at Lefty's. And so I tend to say that the value of it from a builder's standpoint is minimal because of the soil bearings, and I think it has far greater benefit to the city. That's just my comment on that. on that. The other thing is in that same area where Three Monks is, I see where there's a sign that says pain management coming soon. Is that a
Yeah.
medical marijuana center coming in?
No, that is like spine and I can't remember what the other, but like spinal something, and I can't remember the other thing, but it's like if you hurt your back or something like that.
Okay, it would be great if they have a name, if they could put it out there, because there's a lot of people in this town that think it is medical marijuana coming into the DDA. And you just have people that have opinions on that. And it probably would be a little bit helpful if it gets clarified as to what the pain management is.
Okay.
So thank you very much. Thank you on that.
Yep. And then if I could just piggyback off your comments about the 390 South Lafayette, we did discuss either having like a green space or a gateway into the downtown there as well as an option. So.
Councilmember Kibble, did you have something?
Yeah, I was hoping to, when we do the transition into the pumpkins and hay bales and things of that nature, are they going to be starting to pull some of the flowers that are kind of withering out on those posts?
Yep, we're going to be doing that as well. I didn't include that in my report, but that's going to be happening at the same time.
Terrific, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else have anything for Nate this evening? All right, great. Thanks a lot, Nate.
Thank you.
On to the fire chief report. Chief Vogel, great to see you.
Hi, everybody. Longer list than usual, so I'll try to snap through it. Friday, I was sitting in my office and I heard tornado siren go off. So I drove over to Lake Street parking lot and I spoke to the repair company and the siren has been repaired. They ended up doing a major overhaul, so it was good to hear that it was working. With the same theme, we were able to piecemeal and get the ladder back in service. The ladder truck is functional. I was able to have a final pre-build meeting with CSI for the rescue truck. We made a couple tweaks. We were able to save the city a little more money, so I'm pretty excited that that's moving forward. The body is currently being built in Florida and will be shipped to Michigan, and then the truck will head up to Grayling to get redone. We had 4 new firefighters pass the fire academy this week. That was exciting. We were called to a Thursday night, Friday morning, we were called for a possible woman not breathing. South Lyon Police Department got there, started CPR. We got there and we put the Lucas device on the patient, and currently she was able to have a strong pulse and breathing on her own. I was pretty proud of the crews that night. And today we've got word that we got a $40,000 grant from the federal government to purchase some more rescue equipment. Pretty exciting. And finally, on behalf of all my firefighters, I would like to thank council, city manager, the mayor, and Ms. Tiernan for the hazard pay. I can't stress enough, it really, really helped some of my younger people to pay rent this month. It's been tough, the pandemic on some people, and we're very, very grateful. And that's all I have. I know it's a lot.
Councilmember Kibble, go ahead.
Chief, I was wondering what is the status of the training facility over at the water treatment plant?
Yeah, I was going to say that for next council. So the ground's been prepped, and the boxes should be here any day now. I'm just kind of waiting to coordinate the delivery. Me and Sergeant Conrad met with Tracy Chamberlain from Green Oak. We're kind of trying to get our design and our ideas. The way the state works with their grants, we were able to get the boxes cheaper than we first asked for. They still gave us all the money, so we're able to have about $300 or $400 that we can buy some drywall, some studs, kind of give us a little, we were able to build some walls. It's kind of exciting. Probably not going to be used this year. I think weather's kind of catching up to me. I did receive a complaint from a council person regarding the way that the fence looked next to the building. I went over there, I looked at it. I think we're gonna try to leave it the way it is, just as a protective barrier from the road. I understood his complaint, but I think in hindsight, I'm just gonna leave it alone until spring and take a look at it again. And we'll clean it up if need be. So we're moving along. It's pretty exciting, actually. I'm pretty excited.
It is exciting, and it's nice that the state is playing ball with us as much as they possibly can. That's helpful.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Well, Chief, that's great news on the 40,000 for firefighting equipment. So compliments on getting the grant through on that one. Also delighted to hear that the Lucas device obviously was successful there in that call that you had. And I think you mentioned that you're still planning to go for a grant for a second one for the other engine there in November, I think it is, or something, when the 2 years comes up.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on. It's definitely a goal of mine to do whatever it takes to get a second one. We've had to rearrange some equipment just to make sure it's available. We know that recently there was a time where the Lucas device was outside the city, and I said, well, we can never have that again. So I'm making efforts to try to figure out an avenue to get another one.
Sounds good.
It's so important. It's one of the more important pieces of equipment in the fire service I've seen in a long, long time.
That's good news. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anyone else with anything for Chief Vogel this evening? All right, thank you very much, Chief.
Thanks, Mayor.
We'll move on to Chief Sovic and the police chief report. You're muted, Chief. Chief, you're still muted, bud.
How's that?
Now we're good.
Last week, Lieutenant Bakke attended the Michigan Association Chiefs of Police, New Chiefs and Police Executive School. It was a 40-hour class in preparation for future leadership. And so we were glad to get him into that training, some great training. Unfortunately, one of our officers, the individual that we just replaced Officer Whitrock with, Officer Mostick from Farmington Hills, he had some changes at home. And so he is going to be leaving us. His last day is going to be October 8th. Unfortunately, he brought a lot of experience and some mentorship to some of our younger guys on midnights. So unfortunately, he is going to be leaving us October 8th. To date, we have received approximately 32 applicants, 32 applications. We'll be starting interviews next Wednesday, Thursday, and Monday. We have about 24 interviews to go through, so we have some pretty strong candidates to replace him. Some of you may remember back in 2014-15, we had an officer in the DEA task force. And fortunately, we just heard the payments on those cases that he was involved in are slow paying out, but we just received word that we're going to be receiving approximately $68,000 from one of those cases that he was involved in. So if we don't see those drop in our account in the next couple of days, we'll contact the DEA, but $68,000 is always good to have and to purchase some things that we can use for the police department. And that's not going to come out of taxpayers' money. So that's a pretty good chunk of change that we're excited about getting. So we've got a couple of things that we can think about and spending that money on, but that's for a later council meeting. And my final one is just wanted to recognize Ron Brock from the DPW. Most of you know him. The guy is just such a laid back, such a nice, pleasant individual to work with. I've been working with him for many years in the police department, setting up events, barricades, signs, and just events. And just wanted to recognize him for just his professionalism and outstanding work. He's just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And he's our go-to guy over at the DPW for any type of event. So I just wanted to recognize him this evening for a great job he's done for the city all these years. That's all I got tonight.
Thanks, Chief. And I'll second that too. Ron Brock does an incredible job, and you're right. You won't run into a nicer gentleman. It looks like we had several hands here. Councilmember Kurtzwell, I'll see you. You go first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Chris, I just want to thank you for your extreme attention to budget items. You and I have had many conversations this past year about budget issues, And you have just been absolutely incredible in your commitment to maintaining the professionalism, the high professionalism that's in our Southline Police Department, which is beyond reproach. And I want to thank you for additional training that's going out, because I think that's a real key thing. And I want to thank you for your vision on that, because I think whether it's executive training or police officer training, I think that is just a line item that I think I really need to look at for next year to see how we can enhance additional training for the police officers. So I just wanted to thank you for that. You're a role model for police departments throughout the country in terms of your management and your commitment to public safety, which is really the number one reason that we have government. That's our number one function as a government, is to maintain public health. And you are making a lot of our jobs very, very easy. So thank you. Thank you very much, Chief.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Dill, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Chief. I just wanted to say that I really like that you've been posting those weekly stats lately on social media. It's something I pay attention to a lot, and I liked that other people in the community were picking up on the fact that your officers issue so many more warnings than they do citations. And I know a lot of people think that the police department has a quota and we are trying to make money off of the citizens by, jamming them up all the time. But I noticed, I like that other community members are noticing that, 3 traffic citations and 30 warnings is, I like that it's trying to do more correct people than trying to write tickets. So I just wanted to say I really appreciated that, and I'm really glad that you're making it public. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously we understand too with things that are difficult right now with going through COVID, and people are hurting, and we've never really ever been heavy-handed, and we just wanted to let them people know that that we are human beings too. We understand what they're going through to a certain extent, and so it's just another way that we can just kind of, I don't want to say cut them some slack, but just stop them, give them a warning, and sometimes the only stop is going to be their only contact they have with the police department. You want to make it pleasant, so. Yeah, we'd rather handle things that way than be heavy-handed and issue citations. And like I said, this whole COVID thing has just kind of thrown all of us for a loop, and we're just trying to do our part and letting people know that we're still there for them. We're still going to pull you over if we see a violation, but very rarely we issue a citation, especially during today's times right now. So thanks for the words.
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Kibble, go ahead.
Sort of on that same vein, I've really been happy to see all the movement with the radar that's been put out so people can get educated about their behavior on streets. They might not have known whether they were driving too fast or just too pokey for that matter. So I think that's a great tool and kind of keeps you guys from having to intervene. They can self-police themselves by doing that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have anything for Chief Sovic this evening? All right, thank you very much, Chief. You have a great night.
Thank you, thanks.
All right, on to old business this evening, road improvement program.
Thanks, Mayor. Tonight, we're going to have our second discussion regarding addressing long-term repairs of our municipal roads and discussing expenditures, revenues, funding alternatives, and how potentially we can plan moving forward for that. I know that there are some people that are listening in, and I know I've provided each of you a copy of some information, but I'm going to end up reading through it so it does appear on the record, and also the individuals at home can also hear it. At our city council meeting last month, we discussed various components of the road improvement program, including the road assessment, types of repairs, typical road cross sections, sample road conditions within our community, and current and local major road revenues and expenditures, infrastructure affected by road improvement, and funding methods. Moving forward, I'd like to go into further discussing the road funding. As was stated last month, 90% of our roads are in poor or very poor shape, and we know everyone does not want to pay higher taxes. However, the number one complaint we get at City Hall is the condition of our roads. So we need to look at ways to try to fund our road improvement program. The city receives the majority of its revenues from Act 51 funds. Other examples of road maintenance and repairs and improvements include county road funding, which is funding directly received from the county for a particular road, tri-party funds, which is a combination of city, county, and road commission funds for a specific improvement. SADs, which are special assessment districts, which is a specific levy designed to recover the costs for improvements that benefit the property, is levied against the lands benefiting by the improvement. We also receive potentially federal funds directly used upon requirements of receiving the grant. General fund dollars, which are city tax dollars allocated in the budget to be used on city expenses. Bonds, which is a potential loan that is designed to pay for a particular improvement. And levied road millage, which is potentially a voter approved millage by the residents. First thing I want to go into is road bonds. One particular item that always comes up when funding is needed is discussion on a road bond. Bonding, for those of you that aren't aware of it, is a borrowing of money to pay for a particular improvement. The taking out of the bond of the costs the residents of, or the municipality, bond fees, principal, and interest payments. A city is also limited in the amount that we can borrow for a bond based upon state limits, which is based upon percentage of state equalized value. A bond is usually done with a special assessment district, whereby all the costs and payments will be borne by the taxpayer receiving the improvement, unless there's also a city percentage contribution. One item of importance is that an individual SAD or special assessment district project takes about a year from starting to collect signatures to the establishment of the district to the time that construction actually begins. Bonding can also be used to pay for road improvements levied by a road millage, whereby the revenue generated by the road millage would pay directly for the improvement or a bond payment. The city potentially takes out a $5 million bond to pay for the road improvements, and the revenue received from the road millage that are paid in every year for taxes would pay for the bond payment, which includes principal and interest. Or the city could use the road millage revenue each year to pay for improvements based on how much revenue we receive. This would eliminate the need to take out a bond if it was in fact delayed a year, so you can potentially collect 2 years of tax payments. If the city raises a millage via a vote of 3+ mills, we would receive enough revenue each year via tax receipts every July to potentially eliminate the need to take out that bond. This is because we would have enough funds generated by the collection of the millage to pay for the road improvement each and every year. Based upon existing revenue, general fund or Act 51 road funding, the city does not have enough funds to make substantial road improvements or make payments on a bond that would have an effect on the overall condition of the road. As you remember, last month we discussed it, and there was over $40 million of road improvements that were needed within the city. So taking out a bond and make improvements with the existing funded levels and under this scenario isn't feasible, which leads us to two potential scenarios. Raising the millage rate, one mill, which we have the ability to do under the law and establish individual special assessment districts, or raise the millage via the vote of the electorate with more than 1 mill. This would allow us to generate enough funds via the millage to pay for improvements each year. Each mill that is levied or an increase generates approximately $400,000 in revenue each year. This, coupled with a portion of Act 51 funds which we received every year, approximately $500,000, could begin a road improvement plan for the city. If the city roads are improved by a special assessment district, however, the single mill increase in the Act 51 funds alone are not enough to initiate the road program. The city contribution of approximately $500,000 of an Act 51 funds and our ability to raise a millage 1 mill as a contribution to establishment of SAD would work out to the contribution of almost $1 million a year to a road improvement program, which works out to be about 20% contribution per year on a $5 million road improvements per year. If the city makes any bond payments, whether by payment from a millage increase or the establishment of an SAD, we are reducing the amount of improvements we can make each year by approximately 15 to 20% due to the cost of setting up the bond plus principal and interest payments. If an SAD is established, the city would need to take out a bond for the improvement due to the timing and receiving the payments. Total payments will be made over a period of 10 years. I've included some other additional information for you this evening with the assistance and discussions with our attorneys. The city chapter 78 does discuss special assessment districts, so that is how the process actually moves forward. And I've also itemized for you the special assessment process, which starts out with an application, a feasibility study, and then followed by formal petitions by residents who wish to start the special assessment district. The petitions are reviewed, names and addresses are done, and then we verify estimates. There's resolutions acknowledging receipt of petitions, repair plans, and an estimate. And then a setting of the first public hearing, which sets the date, is called the public hearing on necessity. Notices are sent out, public hearing occurs, and then we're at that particular point, if it does move forward, the engineers are directed to prepare final plans and engineering estimates. After that, a third resolution is done where they approve boundaries and estimates and then sent out for bids. Bids are received. Another resolution is set when you set public hearing on costs, reestablishment of the role, notices, board confirms the role, and then adopts the final role. Then after that, award of the bid. This process does take more than a year, but a special assessment is an option to occur for the residents to get involved, and they would initiate that petition. There's also a means in which council can establish a special assessment district, which does not require the actual residents to circulate a petition. But a special assessment district does have numerous publications and notices, mailings to property owners, 5 resolutions, 2 public hearings, so you can understand why it takes so long. There's also, you were given tonight a copy of attorney-client privilege letter that I believe all of you have. And myself and Patricia and our attorney are here tonight to potentially answer any questions that you may have regarding this process.
Councilmember Kivel, go ahead.
I'm not interested in the process to this point, but I was kind of curious, in the event that we were to look at the 3 to 5 mil range, by the community deciding that they would like to bond it, what would we still be using the Pazer study as the driving force for what would be attended to primarily? Because I'm thinking if I have a road that's in pretty decent shape, I don't want to end up having to wait until the entire city is completely solved before I start to see some action with my dollars being thrown into the pot. So I was just kind of curious what the process of selection for projects would be.
Well, first of all, the millage would be used to not only for the milling and overlay of roads and potential reconstruction, but would also potentially be used for the maintenance of roads and enhanced maintenance project to ensure that those roads, the life is actually extended. The next step in this, which I would get into later, is the developing and grouping of roads by road segments and areas, and determine the actual potential costs per household, or what it would cost for those particular areas to actually get paved, and whether it would in fact be a mill and overlay. You would start to work on getting potential soil borings done if we don't have enough information to ascertain whether they need drainage improvements, new curb and gutter, or just ditches. So we would start to group those areas, and then after we do that for the whole city, and it is required, we would be required to do that for the whole city, because we would want to identify which roads are within the worst condition and which roads we can actually extend the life on. So we group those, and if you are going to go out for a millage, it would be my recommendation that you would have established for the public to see, and as well as having individuals on a particular committee, that they can actually see what segments of road and what areas are going to be done within which year of a particular millage or millage levy. So they would say, okay, my segment's going to be done in the 5th year. Mine's going to be done in the 3rd year. Mine's going to be done in the 9th year. Everybody gets a buy-in into this and totally understands how the process is. And it's not just levying millage and not knowing what's going to happen with the roads. But like I mentioned during the conversation, that you could potentially bond for that at the beginning. And I would recommend, if you're going to look at something like this, that you would do more than one levy of a bond. You could do one levy almost immediately and start the road project, and then you may do another one 5 years down the road. So we're not going to look at levying $40 million worth of road improvements. There's not enough money within that millage or within the general fund to pay that every single year.
I think my interest would be that there was some balance between the maintenance and the reconstruction. I would hate to see us have to wait until all the assessments are done on some of the worst conditions, and we're sort of with that amount of money and the interest, I think that it could generate, once people get over the shock value of how much it's going to cost, because everybody's going to have to weigh in that too. But when you see what the results will be, I think everybody's going to recognize that their property becomes more valuable if the routes to get to their property are enhanced. So we can kind of work on that as well for the communication to the community.
And that would be included within some of the millage language, would be not only for the reconstruction and repair of roads, but would also be included for maintenance. So everybody could understand what that's all about. Because if you just say for reconstruction, you can't use it for repair and maintenance. It doesn't mean we're stopping and doing normal repairs and maintenance that we normally do, but it's really kicking it up a notch to make it, to ensuring, and everybody is tied into this program, so everybody is seeing and receiving the benefit.
Right, I agree. Thank you.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One issue regarding the special assessment districts is that they tend to be somewhat cumbersome, as you have explained, Paul. And that opens the door for opportunities for litigation if you don't do it right. I have litigated special assessment districts in a bordering municipality in the area, and we settled because, quite frankly, they screwed it up. So I think that you need to understand that when you do get into special assessment districts, you really, really better know what you're doing, because you're really, really going to open the door for a lot of problems if you don't. Second thing on a special assessment district, which was not answered for the discussion in the attorney-client letter, but the question is let's say you do issue a special assessment district and there's a special assessment on my house in year 2021, and let's say that special assessment is for dollars of about $5,000 or $4,000. That's my contribution in addition to the other patchwork of financing that's going to be used for the roads. Let's say that I sell my house in 2022. Does the special assessment need to be paid off completely prior to me selling? Is that a lien on the property that needs to be reconciled when a transfer of ownership occurs? Because
no, it does not. It does not require that, but obviously when somebody's looking at their house and they see that there is a $5,000 encumbrance on that particular property, somebody's going to pay for it. Either A, it gets rolled in, it stays on that particular property, or the individual says, hey, I want that paid off by the time I buy the property. But it is not a required of a special assessment district to have it paid off at time of sale.
But the advantage to a voter approved millage is that you wouldn't have that additional issue to negotiate on the sale of a property. So property owners in the city would have, I would think, far greater flexibility in buying and selling property if there was not a special assessment lien on their tax roll. So I'm just adding that for whatever it's worth.
And also with the levy of the millage, it's also paid on individuals who live on private roads or developments that do not necessarily have city roads in them. So you're getting their contribution as well to the process. So it is spread out more evenly across the whole city because they are benefiting by driving on the city roads as well.
When does the bond for the water department pay? When does that pay off?
I believe it's 2025, I believe. Patricia, is that correct?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yes, it's 2025 is when it drops off.
Okay, thank you. And how many mills is that?
3,
Do you know offhand?
I believe it's 3.
So you could, in essence, result in a net zero increase in taxes for the residents if we did a voter approved millage. Well, no, that's a voter approved millage. We could do our own millage for the next couple of years, 1 mil per year. And then when we come into 2025, I'm just thinking out loud, when we come into 2025, when we know that that 3 mil comes off over there from the water department bond, we could substitute that with the voter approved millage of 3, and you really wouldn't see a net increase in your taxes because you're just substituting 1 3 mil for another 3 mil.
Yes, as long as that would be voter approved, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think one of the key things that consistently comes up is when we get contacted regarding the roads, some people have told us that why don't you just establish a road bond? And the real means is, how do you pay off that road bond? We have to have some sort of revenue to pay that off. And if we were looking at making millions of dollars worth of improvements, which is, doing a whole subdivision, we need to have that type of revenue in order to make those improvements. The money that's within Act 51 can only go so far, and the money within general fund is only go so far. Nate and I have had discussions, and we started to talk about some potential improvements within downtown, and we need to have those funds in order to be able to make those improvements as well. But yeah, I think that the next step in this is grouping sections, coming back before council getting a good idea what it takes. Because we're working on special assessment districts. If you're talking about a mill and overlay, you're talking about maybe $8,000 to $12,000 per household for a mill and overlay. But if you're talking about reconstruction, it could be $20,000. And those type of payments are obviously a lot higher than what it would be if you were just to levy so many mills across the board, because now you have all 12 or 14,000 residents being able to pay into that millage and the larger pot to be able to make more road improvements.
All right. Did anyone else have anything to add on this conversation this evening?
What I'll do is I'll come on back at a future meeting and get you some more information regarding segments, get some ideas regarding costs for subdivisions and improvements. And we can look at and try to get some better estimates for you, and we'll continue to move this forward.
Councilmember Kill, you had something. Go ahead.
Well, still solely that I think that we've got an awful lot of conversations with the community to be had, trying to get a sense of where they think we need to go, and then we need to be able to actually start to implement something, because we can't keep just pushing it down the road. So, thank you.
Certainly. Okay, so with that,
This is a good report, though.
Yep. New business this evening: police vehicle purchase, new patrol SUV. Chief Sovic, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Police Department's requesting authorization to order 1 replacement Ford Police Patrol Interceptor SUV. The request for the purchase of the vehicle was approved during the budget workshop for our current fiscal year. Funds for the purchase will be drawn from line item 101-300-978. Normally with this type of purchase in this amount, we always look for at least 3 bids. Traditionally, I think over the last 10 years, we've only gotten bids from 2 dealerships, the Signature Ford and Gorno Ford. I did contact Hines Park and Brighton Ford, and they are no longer in the business of for police vehicles and municipal sales. So, and as far back as I can remember, it's always been from Gorno or Signature Ford. There's always usually $100 difference between them, but we always just go with the cheaper bid, and we've always gotten great service from both of those Ford dealerships. So you have the purchase request information and the bid sheets in front of you. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
We've been down this road before, Chief. So I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the purchase of 1 2021 Ford Police Interceptor SUV vehicle from Signature Ford under the Macomb County bid at a cost of $32,614 from line item 101-300-978 capital equipment.
Support.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
Chris, we've been talking this year about COVID-19 issues in the patrol car. Were you able to find out anything about that software that's coming out from Ford Motor Company?
Yes, I was. I received for those of you not aware, I received an email from Councilwoman Kurzweil regarding some Ford is developing a heat software to sanitize those police vehicles. Just like in a nutshell, what it happens is it just raises the temperature in the interior of the vehicle to 133 degrees for about 15 minutes to reduce the bacteria in there. I did contact Bill, our contact from Signature Ford, Bill Campbell, indicated that that software is not available in the 2020 or 2021 models, but will be available in the 2022 models. So we did look into it, not going to be available for the model we're purchasing. And at this point, I do not intend on asking for another patrol vehicle next year. So when that time comes around, we'll have to readdress and we'll see how things are going and developing and see where we're at with COVID-19 at that time. But I did have an opportunity to look in that. So thank you for the email. I appreciate it.
All right, we have a motion in a second. Any further discussion? City Clerk Deaton, could you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Dill,
Yes.
Kibble,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Kurzweil,
Yes.
Richards. Oh, sorry. He's not here today. He's absent. Pelchat.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes. We'll move on to the budget this evening. Anyone have anything for the budget this evening? Okay. We'll move on to the manager's report. City Manager Zelnick, go ahead.
I want to bring up the zoning ordinance rewrite. I know most of you have been reviewing those. Please let me know how close you are to completing that review, and potentially we can schedule that Planning Commission's joint city council meeting. The census, so reminder about that. We have heard that they are going to extend that particular deadline. I've had conversations with the police and fire chief about doing a Facebook Live or a video to try to get residents motivated to completing the census. Right now, we're still like right around 85%, which means that almost 2,000 residents of South Lyon are not being represented in the census. And if we need to get those numbers up within the 90s in order to really make an impact on the funds that we're going to potentially receive in the future. I read a copy for all of you on the cemetery sign that was completed at our cemetery by our Eagle Scout that completed that project. He did a great job. We're going to bring him on for one of our meetings and recognize him for that particular work. There's going to be maps and pamphlets that are going to be put in that. It looks really good. It's right at the entrance of the cemetery, right behind the stone. He did an excellent job and did that all on his own to get his Eagle Scout badge. Fieldstone, what final approval was approved and was by Planning Commission last week and will be coming at a future date before City Council for approval. The water tank installation, they're currently working on the foundation of the tank. All of you have gotten information on that. I believe you can see where you can actually go online and look at the construction take place. There's a photograph that's taken about every 5 minutes of the site. That camera was actually provided by HRC. The city did not need to contribute to the cost of that particular camera, but it's a great way to see what's actually going on. You're going to start to see the forms start to go up within the next couple of weeks, then it's really going to start taking shape. Doug is on the line. Doug, I'm not sure if you have anything else that you wanted to add regarding the water tank this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, actually, I'm just here kind of to highlight everything that's going on with in accordance with this project. So I'm just going to kind of go over everything basically in a highlight reel fashion. Everything here is presented for you guys. As we're going into phase one of the project, that includes four things, obviously. The four things being the horizontal directional drilling, the pressure filters, refurbishment of those media, the existing ground storage tank being completely refurbished on the inside and the outside, and then obviously the big one, what everybody's going to see, which is the tank itself, the new storage. Basically, the 12-inch HDPE, the horizontal directional drilling, is completed to this point. All connections have been made, park side and plant side. On the Parkside connection, I'll kind of briefly discuss that. I did include some photos in the packet to show that there was some pitting that has occurred in the cast iron pipe. The cast iron pipe's in pretty bad shape and pretty much one centralized location, luckily for us. We did check further down towards the well to see if, check the condition of that line, and it was actually in really good shape. So we only had to take about a 30-foot section out. And luckily the T was reusable. That's a pretty expensive component as well. So they replaced that. Everything's good to go with that. HRC has now commented now on a new change order regarding change order 2, which will be presented here. And I kind of want to just read their statement so we can have it verbatim for the record here. There was an unknown field condition that led to the need to add an additional second gate valve. The city's drawing showed a gate valve essentially at the T where existing water main was intersected. It was unclear as to which line the valve was on. It was assumed that the existing gate valve was on the line headed towards well 7, but because the water main is buried there, there was no way of confirming which line the valve was on. After excavation, it was determined that the valve was not on the line heading towards well 7, but instead was on the line that connects to well 6. Per Eagle, a second gate valve was needed to be added to the water line to well 7 to allow the system to maintain firm capacity while sharing well 6 with the 2 well. That's the whole point of why we had that horizontal directional drilling done. I have also listed some supported documents here provided by HRC to highlight the area in discussion, and portions are enlarged for clarity because their drawings are super hard to read in the form that they give us, so I kind of blew that up for everybody. Also, as an update, the general contractor, his name is Jim, he's running the whole project out there. I've been discussing with him almost daily everything that's happening there. He's actually reaching out to a local landscape firm to finish off the grade over on the side where the manhole is. And that's going to be done here shortly, probably within a week or so. He wants to get somebody local to finish that up. And when it's done, I'm thinking everybody will be very happy with it. You won't even know there's a manhole there. It's going to look pretty much like the one on the Dorothy side. And then that little bit of thunder stolen from Mr. Zelnick, obviously. The link is obviously available here for everybody. I think that's pretty cool that they've offered that for everybody to see the project basically real time. I just have it on my phone right here, and you can even see it now, which is kind of nice. There's some glitches with it every now and then, but it seems to work pretty well. Every 5 minutes or so, you get a new photo. Other than that, the photos are here to kind of see project-wise. I've taken some latest and greatest. I think the coolest thing that I've added here would be if you go to photo number 4, it'll actually show you the building of the walls, the structure themselves. There's going to be a total of 12 panels. They're already done. They're curing. They're ready to go. They're going to stand those up, and we're going to have a new ground storage tank here shortly. So I'm pretty excited about it. Other than that, if there's any questions, that's what I'm here for.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Hey, Doug, somewhere in one of the documents, you mentioned that they were going to be reaching out to, I believe it was Tonka, to get confirmation of when they're going to do those filters. Did they get that information yet on the start date? They confirmed that or anything yet?
Yeah, there's actually good news on that, Mr. Kennedy. I'm happy to report to you that the latest and greatest with that is they thought that they might only be able to do them 2 at a time and stagger them based on usage and all this. It's sounding like, because they have reached out to Tonka, it's sounding like that's going to go a lot faster than they initially anticipated. So even though we've already caught up and we're on schedule, that's going to even put us more on schedule. So Tonka will be giving us a date when they're going to be able to get in line and get these things knocked out for us. They might do 3 at a time and then 3 at the other time, but they're just saying that the time frame, they'll have no problem getting that all in basically one fell swoop. They're not going to have to make multiple trips and restage and do everything all in different increments, as what we anticipate.
Potentially shorten the overall duration then?
That's correct. Yep.
Great. Good news. Thanks.
No problem.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question goes to the city manager, probably with assistance from Doug. I've noticed, and I have received phone calls from residents, particularly in the downtown area, that are very pleased about the sidewalks that are starting to get repaired. Could somebody talk a little bit about how the selection is being made? Are more sidewalks going to be repaired? This is pretty important to the people that live in the downtown. And I think it's long overdue. Additionally, as we all know, we are encouraging people to walk, to get outside, and you have a lot more people that are walking downtown in the area. So I think it's pretty important that at least our downtown and maybe the neighborhoods immediately off of the downtown, that those sidewalks really, really be attended to. So, what is your program and how is it going?
Yeah, that was really the start of the program. It's kind of a part of the program for making those repairs. One is actually the installation of new sidewalks in other areas where they need to be broken up and repaired. And the other part of that is the use of that scarifier for milling down areas. But it is to start within the immediate downtown and work its way out. And as Doug, he can get into more detail about the areas that they're going to be working on. But after getting the downtowns, then that's when we start working more within the subdivisions with the scarifier. The other one, replacement of sidewalk, is done as part of the council allocates funds every year in conjunction with the residents' contribution to do those segments of sidewalks that are actually within subdivision. But Doug, you can go into as far as which areas they're working on.
Oh, yeah. So our staff is obviously getting much more familiarized with the piece of equipment, the new scarifier, and it's I've watched them and I've stayed right by his side, and it's a fascinating piece of equipment. We're putting it into service as much as we can. And so we did start we tested a few areas. We are very comfortable now the guys are using it. So we will continue to use it and kind of span our way out, as Paul said. And I'm excited about the 50/50 program to see actually people are starting to use it a little bit now. And we got quite a long section there in Lafayette done. We'll just keep on plugging away, and as we come up with more and more opportunities to use this piece of equipment, we're going to use it and replace sidewalks as needed.
My additional question on this is, I noticed that the sidewalk area in front of the laundromat was done, that whole stretch in there. That was a really, really bad area, and someone had seen a child fall on a bike or something, and apparently it was a pretty bad fall. That was, I think, sometime this summer when it was reported to me. Do you go into owners and say this sidewalk in front of your business needs to be taken care of and you need to do it, or is the city picking up the tab on that? Is there any enforcement? So if I were to walk the downtown and if I found 5 flags that were clearly bad and they were in front of somebody's business, is that an enforcement action, or is it not and the city repairs it? I'm not quite sure how that process works.
Well, we do have our ordinance enforcement officer that does go around reviewing sections and identifying things. And it may be within a subdivision, it may be on a major road, or it may be just on a local street. But I know Doug has worked with his staff identifying sections and calling those out to be repaired. Doug, if you want to follow.
Yes, we are still kind of working with one resident, and he didn't have had lost his job situation like that. There is another section of sidewalk we're trying to get him to use a 50/50 program on, and we're trying to offer him other opportunities of solutions. But we are working with Mike in terms of he's kind of the one that goes to the residents or businesses and says, hey, you need to have this sidewalk repaired. Oh, by the way, there's a 50/50 program. Would you be interested in this? And that's kind of how that works, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kivel, go ahead.
On that note, do you know how far into our budget, we allotted, I forgot what the actual figure was for the 50/50 program. Do you know how much of that has been eaten up?
Not very much. I know there's 5,000 or so, I believe. And so,
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think it's probably less than, if I had to guess, 20%. Be less than that.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, Paul. I just was going to make sure if anyone else had anything for the city manager or Doug this evening.
I wanted to bring up a couple more items. One was regarding the water and sewer discussion. We're going to be bringing that back to council to discuss regarding the rates. And also, I'm going to be preparing, I forward all of you a copy of the information I was going to be getting out to the residents regarding the Halloween notice about, how it's not necessarily a city sanctioned event. And I appreciate the couple phone calls that I received from council members on that. So we're looking at getting that out there, not only on the website, but the Facebook pages as well, to get that as many people as possible.
Okay. Councilmember Dilg, you had something for city manager Zelnick?
Actually, for Doug, I just wanted to say, I watched your roundtable with the Water Resources Roundtable, and it was very impressive. You were on there with Washtenaw and Livingston and Oakland County Water Commissioners. And I just thought that was really great. I liked the information you gave about the water meters and the Ion Water app. So it was very interesting. I was really impressed with what you had to say and the fact that you were in there with all those big wigs. And we should be posting that around. I really think that people might be interested in watching the section that, especially that you talked about with the water meters.
Thank you.
Great job on that.
All right, Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Just to follow up with Councilmember Doak's comment, that little panel discussion is available on YouTube. If people have to search for it, it's available to anybody. Also understand Channel 19 was going to run it as part of their programming as well.
Great.
That's all I had.
All right. Does anyone else have anything for City Manager Zelnick or Doug this evening? All right, thank you guys. We'll move on to public comment. Lisa, do we have anyone interested in public comment by raising their hand virtually or speaking up?
No, we do not.
Okay. At this time, we will close public comment. We'll move on to council comments. Councilmember Kennedy, why don't you start us off this evening?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I want to remind residents that there's a hazardous waste collection event this Saturday, October 3rd from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. It's going to be held at the Novi DPW garage that's located at 26300 Lee Lugovo Drive, which is located between Meadowbrook Road and Town Center Drive on the north side of 11 Mile. And also that the mobile shredder will be there for paper shredding as well. So now's the time to basically clean out the garage. Secondly, I realized there was some disappointment following the announcement that downtown trick or treat was not going to be held this year. So I want everyone to know that SLARA, the South Lyon Area Recreational Authority, will be holding a trick or treat event at the South Lyon High School Stadium Field on Saturday, October 24th from 3 p.m. until 7 p.m. The event is being held on the field to ensure that social distancing can be maintained. And in addition, masks are mandatory for all who attend. It will be conducted in half-hour time increments with 50 children allowed per time slot. One adult will be permitted to accompany their children. Pre-registration is required, and you can sign up on the SLARA website, slrec.net. Also, they're looking for businesses that would like to participate in the event. So if you have a business or group and would like to set up a table, please contact them at 248-437-8105 for all the details. So again, it's going to be on a first come, first served basis if folks want to sign up for that event on Saturday, October 24th. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Councilmember Walton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't have a whole lot to say tonight. I will say this, I was up north over the weekend in Manistee, and they had a really nice downtown area, very walkable. One of the things that struck me was they had a big sign there of all the historic homes in the area, a little picture of the home and a little description of it. And I know that South Lyon has a lot of historical homes, and I just thought it would be a great addition to our downtown area, just more things to see and do in the area. So I'm putting it out there. Hopefully maybe the Historical Society would be interested in putting on something like that, and I'd be more than happy to pass along the picture I took of the sign, but I would love to see something in that in our area. Other than that, I think everybody have a good night, stay warm. We're going to dip down a little chilly this week, so test out those furnaces.
Thank you, Councilmember Walton. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to encourage everybody to turn off the news and just enjoy October, for Pete's sake. It's a wonderful month. It has great colors. There's a lot to do. Take some time to visit Irwin's Orchards, get some great apples and donuts and lots of fresh air. To the south, stop in at Three Cedar Farms, where you can have great fun. You can buy your corn stalks. You can have hay rides. Just absolutely wonderful. Stop by Donaghy's on Pontiac Trail for a great selection of pumpkins. Don't forget our Farmer Kenny and 5H Farms for their great fall produce. This summer they had probably the best sweet corn I've ever had in my whole life. One of my favorites is Mike's Garden, just out of town. Mike has some great perennial mums for those of you that are into some great fall coloring. Basically, I think we need to just let go a little bit, reduce the anxiety, get out, enjoy the fall. Let's decorate our homes for fall. Let's start adding some normality back into our lives. Let's give the kids some fun these next couple of weeks and take them out and let them enjoy the fall. Get them to walk downtown South Lyon where they're going to see some scarecrows posted. You're going to have corn stalks. Go visit the businesses that have these wonderful paintings that were put on by our wonderful Dana Johnson. There is so much to enjoy during this season. And I'm telling you, it can be done right here in South Lyon. We probably have the best things going on for the month of October. So please stay in South Lyon, spend your money in South Lyon, enjoy October, stay safe, be cautious, be careful, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week or the next 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell. Councilmember Dill.
I would second that from Councilmember Kurzweil. I'm super excited about Halloween and the fact that we, that finally people will hear something's not canceled. And I think that I just really hope people are smart and they wear masks and they try to socially distance so that we don't, mess this up. The guy down the street from me is building a whole outdoor scare fest for the kids. It's so exciting. And when I stopped in to talk to him, he was so happy to hear that the trick-or-treating wouldn't be canceled. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the scarecrows. It feels normal. Miss Pumpkin Fest, but I'm very excited about all that. I'm also excited. I know you guys are sick of me talking about it, but I finally saw signs up that Lyon Township is going to be doing the path October 2nd to October 31st. So north of 11 Mile to Milford will be closed during that time, which is sad, but it's exciting because they're going to repave that whole path. I think that's going to be great for both of our communities. Really happy to see that. And then the last thing is, I don't know who would want to put this out, but I thought maybe we should mention something in social media just about the charter amendment that's on the ballot. I had a few people ask me, what the heck is this thing all about with your, why are we being asked to do this? And I've been explaining it to people, but maybe just give a quick heads up on a very long ballot so they know why we want that done. Just a suggestion, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dillop. Councilmember Kibble?
My wife and I had been eating downtown, both inside and on the patios when they weren't terribly crowded. So it's been nice getting reacquainted with a lot of people that we used to have pretty casual, comfortable relations with. In the last 5 or 6 months, it's been pretty tough getting out and visiting. So it's been good to see things starting to open up. People are not quite as afraid. Everyone seems to be behaving appropriately, so that's been helpful. I also wanted to give props to all the department heads for some of the reports that we're getting. It's been a real wealth of information. They're very well written. They're very thorough and really helpful for helping us get a better understanding of what we're facing and some of the solves that we need to use to accomplish those, whatever the end game is. So I'd just like to thank them again. So that's actually all I have. Thank you, though.
Thank you, Councilmember Kibble. I will be brief this evening as well, as Councilmember Kurtzwell nailed it on trying to be active out here in October. One of the things that she didn't mention is we do have a great Metro Park over there in Lyon Township and connects with our friends over in Milford. And the colors are starting to come in, so you can cruise through there and check that out. And maybe you'll even see the albino deer. I have not seen it yet. I continue to search for the albino deer, but just a tip to throw out there, maybe cruise through Kensington to check out the fall colors. Let's continue to be kind to each other. It's tough. It's a tough go out there for a lot of folks that are that are shouldering a load that's a little bit different than we're all kind of used to. So with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn this evening. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Move to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a great night, all.
Good night.
Good night.